Hello everybody, it's Jess here with Blessed Jess. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everything is good on this video, the quality and everything. I'm filming at my desk, which means the lighting is always off. Anyway, I always preface my videos with that. I don't know why. I also sound great because I have a terrible cold, so I'm going to try to drink during this so I can talk to you guys without losing my voice. So I have had so many requests to share this story with you guys. It's something that is really close to my heart, but I'm sharing, I'm getting really personal here, and I'm sharing it just in hopes of, number one, spreading autism awareness, and number two, helping another fellow mom out there deal with how it feels when your child is diagnosed with autism or any condition. So I'm going to be sharing our autism story with you guys today. And it's really hard to condense the whole thing into a short video, but I'm going to do my best to hit the highlights and going to give you our story. And I've had so many requests for this, and I am happy to share more and more about autism because one of my goals with my channel is to share autism awareness and to reach out to other special needs moms, because we are an amazing group of women. We are. And our kids are amazing. And, you know, we focus on their strengths and not their disabilities. And that's what I try to share and show. So to talk about this, I need to kind of go back to my experience with autism growing up. I actually had zero experience with autism growing up. I didn't really know anybody that had it. I did know a few people who had very high functioning autism, and I didn't really think that much about it. It just wasn't on my radar because no one close to me had it. My heart would always go out to people who did have it. And of course I would see like the documentaries on autism, and they would show like the most extreme cases. And I always thought it was so sad, but it never really was on my radar. So David and I met and started dating, and very quickly he told me about his brother that had autism, and his brother is the exact same age as me, and he is 2 years younger than David. And Kevin was my first experience with really getting to know anyone with autism. And you guys, I want to say that I pretty much fell in love with Kevin before I fell in love with David. I just met him and I just fell in love with him. So I met Kevin. David and I started dating in April and I met Kevin in May. So I remember just not wanting to say anything wrong, or I don't know, just was a little bit nervous meeting him and just not knowing what to expect. David did tell me that he was nonverbal. And so when I met him, my heart just completely opened up to him. And I remember David was getting ready for church. We were in town to go to his church. Or I had come in town to visit his church, and I think it's for his dad's birthday. Anyway, and we were sitting in church, and I was sitting with Kevin because his mom and David and his mom were both on stage, and it was during sound check, and Kevin just reached over and grabbed my hand and was holding my hand, and he won me over, y'all. He is the sweetest young man. Well, he's my age, so you know what I mean. And you know, I've seen my in-laws deal with, you know, him throughout the years, and, you know, his struggles, and they were always such a example of strength for me. So we get married, and, you know, we made sure Kevin was a big part of our wedding, and I always wanted to make him feel, or to make everyone feel like he was included, and him too. And so when we got pregnant, I knew autism has a strong genetic link. In David's family, they have 2 kids with autism. My mother-in-law's sister also has a child with autism. And so when we got pregnant, I was a little bit, you know, wary that maybe this child would have autism too. But I try not to think about it. We did express concerns to our doctor once we found out we were pregnant. And, she was like, well, there's not, I could send you to genetic testing and stuff, but she's like, there's not much they can tell you, this, and we wouldn't have changed anything. If they had said, if they were able to do a test and say he has autism, which of course there is none, we wouldn't have changed anything anyway. So we just kind of made her aware that, hey, this does exist on David's side. And she did do some testing and everything came back fine. Not genetic testing, but like looking for abnormalities and stuff. So Nate was born. He had a healthy pregnancy. He was born a week late, but if you guys want to see Nate's birth story, I'll try to remember to link it down below. And he started growing. He was a very needy baby. Like he wanted to be, before he could get up and move around and walk and stuff, he wanted to be like carried everywhere and jumped up and down. Like he wasn't a cuddly baby. He wanted to be going and doing. And he was like that when he was inside my stomach too. He was very active. Anytime I was in a place with loud music, he was moving and jumping and twisting. And Lucy was totally different. She would kind of go to sleep when I would be out in the middle of everything. And then when I would lay down, I would feel her. But Nate was opposite. He liked the music and everything. It's just so funny. And so he started developing really well. I was always, even after he was born, you guys, I became obsessed. I think I just knew in the back of my head, or at least I had the fear in the back of my head that maybe he could have autism. And so I became obsessed with growth and development. I wanted, every month I would see what was, expected with growth and development, and I would see what he was doing. And I kind of drove myself crazy on it. Really, I drove myself crazy. Okay, he's 3 months old. What is he doing? What should be he doing? Of course, he was too young to really know anything was wrong. I just had a fear. And so he was meeting his milestones. He was rolling over when he should have been. He was sitting up even ahead of time. He walked within the time he was supposed to. He was a little later in walking. He was about 15 months when he started walking. But then when he started, like he was gone, like he was everywhere. He was just a really good baby. Now he did not sleep. Like he did not sleep. I don't really know how I got through that part of my life with him because I was a zombie. He was up all the time. Like even as a little tiny baby, he would sleep a couple hours and then he would be up for a couple hours. I mean, all night long for the first couple of years of his life. It was really, really hard. So I started to notice around 2, he's not really talking. Now he would say words. He started talking when he was about a year old, and he would say, right at a year old, he would say like mama, ball, different things. And then around 2, I started noticing like he's not like very conversational. He will repeat things. He will act out things. Like he would know his colors. Like I'd hold up a ball and he would say blue. He knew that really fast, y'all. Like he started singing his ABCs when he was like 12 months old. Like he knew them all. I mean, it was insane, that kind of stuff. But as far as like having a conversation, he wasn't that great at it. And eye contact, he wasn't that great at it. And, we were worried, but he was also so young that we just thought he's a little boy. He's very active. He was so smart and so good in so many other areas that I just kind of put the fear of autism on the back burner. And I was just like, no, he doesn't have any, he's just a little boy. And that's kind of what we got reassured with everyone near us, oh, he is good. Like he is so smart. He's just a little boy. He doesn't have time to talk. He doesn't have time to sit down, And so, we just kind of, I would work with him a lot on, we would read books and we would have time where I would try to get him, his attention, and he would show me that. So I just thought, he's probably just a little delayed in speech. So around the time he turned 3, or maybe a little bit before, I remember talking to his doctor and just saying, I'm concerned that he's not talking very much. And when he is talking, he is not, it's not a conversational. Like I couldn't say, hi, Nate, how are you? And he would say, yay, or what, it was always like repeating, or what do you want? I would say like, what do you want? He couldn't tell me like milk, it would always be like a repetition of what he had already heard. And he could repeat. I mean, they would say, does he say sentences? And I'm like, well, yeah, but he repeats them. He could repeat a whole monologue from a show. From a show. And so the pediatrician's like, let's try speech therapy. Let's just see if that, maybe he's just a little delayed in speech because he didn't have all the all the markers they thought for autism, and they didn't really test him for that. They just wanted to try his speech as he was still really young. So we had a speech therapist come to our house twice a week for 30 minutes, and he was a great guy. He was awesome. But it just was a big stress because at this point I had Lucy, and she was a baby. They were both babies. Like, they were both so young, and they were both pretty much in diapers. I mean, this was like before Nate was 3. And so I was so stressed out with speech because he would come in the afternoon right at nap time. Nate did not care at all about it. Like, he did not like it. And they were in our house, so he was very distracted with our toys and different things. And then I had Lucy, who was also a huge distraction because she was less than a year old. She was just a baby. And so speech just became really stressful. It just stressed me out. It stressed Nate out. I didn't feel like he was learning anything. Like, maybe some things, but the stuff they were trying to get him to do, it just wasn't what I felt like he needed to work on. You know, it was more like they would want him to learn like forward, backward, in front of, you know, all this stuff. And I'm like, I need to talk to him and know if he needs milk or if he needs to be changed, or, you know, I needed to talk. I needed more like practical stuff than what they were teaching him. So the hardest part of our journey came right after a little bit after he turned 3. And we had been doing speech therapy for a while, and I might get the months mixed up, but it was around the time he turned 3. And I remember talking to David and just being like, look, there's something else going on. I don't know that it's autism, but there's something else going on. It's harder to get his eye contact. It was harder to get him to respond to us. He kind of just seemed like in his own little world, although he was super smart and super sweet. And we didn't have a lot of the, you know, more like difficult behaviors of autism, the tantrums and stuff. He never really did a lot of that back then. And he doesn't do it a lot right now. And I remember talking to David, like, we just need to make an appointment with a pediatrician, and we need to like get real and like talk with him and be like, look, this is in our family, which they knew that too, but just more talking and just like, look, this is in our family. Do you think it's possible that he could have this? What do we need to do? Because speech therapy isn't working. Like, we just need to have a sit down conversation with the pediatrician. And for so long, I was going to try not to cry. For so long, I was scared of the autism diagnosis. I felt like that was the worst thing in the world. And I was terrified of it. Because as a mom, you want your kid to be normal. You want them to have a normal life, as struggle-free as possible. And the autism diagnosis would mean that he was different, that our life would be different. And I was terrified of finding that out. It was like, I kind of knew it, but I was terrified of like being confirmed. So we went to the doctor, and I was just holding out hope that he would just reassure us that no, you know, I was just holding out hope that day. So David and I went to the doctor with both kids. You know, it's crazy. We didn't have family like close to us. We were in Texas. And we went to the doctor, and the pediatrician's like, you know what? I think he does have autism. He's like, I've kind of thought it for a little while. But we were trying some other things and just hoping that it was just his age. But he's like, you know what? I agree with you. I think he has it, and we need to get him tested. And I remember when he said that to us, I stayed strong in the moment because Nate was there, and, you know, I just wanted to get the answers. And we left that doctor's office, and it was like we had to grieve the child we thought we would have. That sounds so bad, but that's how it was. It was like the realization that our lives are going to be different than we thought, and we're going to have struggles. And also David growing up with a sibling with autism, it all came crashing down on us. And I remember just feeling numb, just going home, and both of us just sobbing and just heartbroken. And, you know, we told family and friends to pray for us, and I knew we were going to be okay, but it was like a grieving process. that day, especially. I feel like that day, it all hit home that day when that pediatrician said, yo, I think you're right. He does have this. It was a process that we had to go through emotionally. I'm sorry for breaking down on y'all. It is still really raw for me, even though it's been several years ago. So they set us up with this autism specialist, I guess, or like it was a group that you would meet with all these different specialists, and they together would work on a diagnosis to see if the child had it or not. So we got in with them fairly quick just for the initial test, and that's just with like some therapists. I don't remember what kind they were. If they were speech, I think there was a few different ones. Occupational therapist, speech therapist. And so they observed him with us, just like what he could do. Like they're really impressed with like how smart he was, because I mean he could like pretty much read. I mean he was like 3, y'all, and he was so smart with like numbers and colors and shapes. But as far as like, I mean they did all kinds of tests. They would like ring a bell to see if he would turn and look, which he didn't. There was a lot of just like red flags. And so she said he does qualify to have further testing. And so, it doesn't mean he has autism, but it means we're going to have to test him more. But to get tested, it was going to be 6 months to wait for that appointment. So she said, in the meantime, I would get in with the public school to see if you can get him in the special education preschool, which we didn't even know that was an option. Like I had no idea that you could get into school when you were 3 just because you had special needs. So we did that. We went into the school. That was kind of hard to get in because they kind of even doubted, like, are you sure that he has special needs? Because he hadn't been diagnosed. So we had to have observations with the school. I actually had to drop him off and leave him for like an hour with a bunch of different people, like to observe him, because they didn't want to observe him with us. They wanted to see how he would react in a school setting. And it came back, and I remember just kind of breaking down with them. And I'm sorry, my phone keeps beeping. I remember just breaking down with them and being like, look, I don't know what to do, but he needs this. Like he needs help. I felt like I was just melting down at home. I had 2 kids. I feel like he wasn't getting as challenged as he needed to. I wanted to jumpstart on all of the therapies, and I just wanted help. And they were so supportive at the school, and they were like, you are totally right. He needs this. He got approved for school, and he started school. And I have some pictures of his first day. Oh my gosh, he looks so little. I could cry looking at these pictures. He started school when he was 3. He was like 3.5. And within a few months after he started school, and he was in a special needs class. So there was only like 2 or 3 kids in his class. And around the same time, we learned, y'all, this was like the worst year. During this time, we learned that David had, we're going to have to transition out of jobs, which means we're pretty much going to have to move somewhere, because he's in the ministry. And so just a few months after learning all this about Nate, I realized like our lives are about to turn upside down. What is this going to mean for Nate? What is this going to mean for his care, his school, and all of this? He was doing really well in school. He loved it. And he was getting therapy at school, and we had stopped doing the speech therapy at home, and he was doing way better with the speech therapy at school. So we learned we're gonna have to move and sell our house, and it became insane. Well, during that time, the 6 months finally came for him to be tested for autism. At this point, I was a little more together with it. I was not as raw, feeling like, I kind of knew that he had it at this point. You guys, I'm sorry I've had so many interruptions. So, and I might have more, we'll just see. So we go for the all-day testing, and they observe him with us, and they do a bunch of tests. I mean, there's like a neurologist, a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, child life specialist, like all these people. They observe him with us, and then they observe him without us, and then it was like hours we were there. And then they break for lunch, and we go eat lunch, and then they come back with their diagnosis. And he was diagnosed that day with autism. He was so young that they weren't sure exactly, like mild, moderate, somewhere between mild and moderate. But I mean, autism, I meant to say this, autism is a huge spectrum. Everyone's symptoms and struggles and strengths are going to be so different, because autism is a huge spectrum. And we are so thankful that Nate is verbal. He has And maybe I can do another video on like the struggles we have and stuff like that. But he is very verbal. And we are working with him, and he is able to communicate with us now. But through lots of working with him, he can communicate back and forth. It's very broken and kind of like twisted, but we get there. But he was diagnosed with autism that day, and I actually was okay with it. And I didn't realize, and this is why I wanted to make the video, is I didn't realize that the autism diagnosis would carry almost a strength, because for so long I was afraid of that diagnosis. But once we had it, I had a word to explain our story. I had a word to explain Nate. And it was so empowering for me. I don't know why. I stopped that day and all the days before, like through lots of grief and all that. I stopped comparing him to kids his age. Well, I tried. I still have a hard time sometimes, but I try my best to not compare him to others, because he's Nate and he's a little bit different, but that's okay. And we ended up moving, and we got him into an awesome school here, and he did pre-K here, he did kindergarten here, and now he's in the first grade. And I've kind of shared a lot of our school struggles with y'all about, he was in a regular kindergarten class, and that was just too much and too overwhelming. And so they moved him into an autism classroom, and he has flourished in there. I've noticed so much more talking and more, just life skills since being in there. They have a very ABA, which if you know anything about autism, you know about ABA. They have a very ABA approach in there, and it's less like school. It's more catered to them. But Nate also does go in with a regular class. He eats lunch with them. He eats lunch with them, and then he does like all of his special classes, like art, music, and all that with his regular first grade class. So we are so blessed, and I know, like, we still have struggles. Like, I feel like every kid has struggles, but autism brings its own struggles, and I'll do maybe another video on that. But this is just about our autism story and where we are now. And, I would just say to everyone out there who maybe is facing an autism diagnosis or has a special needs child or whatever is going on, celebrate what your child can do. Celebrate their strengths. Work through the difficulties. Work through the struggles, but celebrate them. And I have tried to do that, and it's changed my perspective on it. And now I don't sit and cry that he has autism. I celebrate every milestone. And that's what's so cool about our story, is that I'm able to celebrate even more when he finally does something. It's so much more exciting. I love watching Lucy grow and develop too, but hers happens so easily that it's hard to kind of like be like, yay, I try my best to. But with Nate, when I see him struggle and struggle and struggle, and then he finally gets something, it is so rewarding. And so we're in a really good place right now. We have our struggles, we have our bad days, but I'm so thankful for the journey that we've been through. And like I said, autism, the word autism, I used to look at it as a bad thing. I used to dread it. I used to grieve it. And now I feel empowered by it, because I don't even know why. It's just like when we go somewhere and I have a word. Used to, people would look at him, oh, he was little, so a lot of it was excused away because he was little. But they would look at him and be like, what? And I didn't have like, oh, he has autism, and let me tell you about that if they wanted to know. But now, if he's having a meltdown, I can look and say, I'm sorry, he has autism, and this is just what, whatever. I can explain it better. People understand. I feel like, and I feel so bad for my in-laws, because they walked through autism before a lot of people even knew what it was. And so many more people know what autism is now. And that's amazing, because I have so much support. We go to the dentist. They are so good with him. All I have to say is he has autism, and they immediately, now they might not know everything, because like I said, it's a big spectrum, but they immediately kind of know how to do it maybe differently than a normal, child. Not that Nate's not normal. He's just, I don't like the word normal. I guess average. I don't know. But that is our autism story. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I try to condense it down, and I'll be sharing more and more about autism on this channel, because I have a lot of fellow autism moms that watch. I also have a lot of autistic people who watch me, which just completely makes my day. And I love when they comment, and it gives me so much hope for Nate in the future. But the future looks bright. He is smart, he is sweet, and we will get through it one day at a time. And we only got through any of it because of our relationship with Jesus. He brought so much peace into our life during that time and so much hope. And I'm so thankful that he walks through the journey with us. Our relationship with Jesus Christ is the first and foremost thing in our life. And he helps us through every struggle. And he's given me such a peace about Nate. I do believe that God is in control of our life. And we're not always promised an easy time, but he's right there with us throughout the whole thing. So a lot of people say, like, how do you get through it? How do you handle it? I don't handle it. I don't get through it. God gets me through it. He handles it. It doesn't mean I don't have to walk through it too, but he's right there with me. And, he is just my strength through it. And my faith is the most important thing in my life. And I would be doing you guys a disservice to not mention it in this video, because honestly, when Nate was a baby, we dedicated him to Jesus. And that means that we surrender, what we want for his life into what God wants. And Nate is going to do great things for God. I know that. Like, his testimony is already so strong. So that is Nate's autism story, and I'm sure we have many more pages to write on it throughout his life, and I can't wait to see even more amazing things he does. So I'm sorry for getting emotional on you guys, but as you can imagine, it's very emotional for me to talk about. It was such a dark, I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was such a dark time in our life, just because we had so much happen in just a few months, and we honestly felt hopeless and alone. And in those moments of feeling like that, God just wrapped his arms around us, and that is the only way we got through it. But we are here today, and we walked through that, and we're doing so good right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have further autism videos you want me to do, what you guys want me to talk about, I would be happy to do that. Again, autism is a huge spectrum, so what we go through might not be the same as what someone else goes through. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, though. If you are new, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. And please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And we'll see you guys all later.
All the live long day, all the live long day, I'll be moving along, singing my song, running around, ain't nothing wrong. All the live long day. I said all the live long day. Baby got her shoes on, she wants to move.